Okay. So today we're going to go again over an overview of how the process works, the timeline for the semester, and some of the important dates to note, what the requirements are for each of the portions of the new club process, and then some best practices, tips and tricks, all of that good stuff. So to start, right, I think we all just need to know what the benefits of having university recognition for your club or organization are, right? And we have a process for a reason, right? Our department, student engagement activities, is the only place that can give you university recognition, right? USG doesn't do it. Your academic department who you work with won't give you university recognition. That definition or category only comes from us. And that's why there's a process so that we can oversee our clubs and organizations and make sure that you have resources, but are also abiding by any guidelines or policies that the university or our department will have. So the benefits really are, right, to be able to identify yourself as a Stony Brook University club or organization. So super important to note that while you're going through the process, until you reach the end where you actually are an approved and recognized organization, you may not call yourselves outwardly to other people as the Stony Brook Energy Club per se, right? You can really represent yourselves as, we're a club seeking recognition. This would be our name, but just make sure that you're not falsely representing yourself or your organization until you're actually approved and recognized club of Stony Brook. So that's important to note. Second, to educate the campus community about the group and its mission. As a recognized club, you have the ability to reserve space and host events and meetings on campus. You can develop your leadership skills for yourself and your other executive board members and your general members. We do at SEA different workshops and stuff for our clubs and organizations. As a recognized group, you'd be eligible to receive budgets from either USG or GSO, depending on if you're an undergraduate or graduate organization. You could take part in campus events such as involvement fairs, Seawolf Showcase, right? All of our traditional events, you'd be able to take part in it and really also co-sponsor different university traditions. And you'd also be eligible for a variety of campus awards, including our annual Gerald L. Stein Student Life Award. So some of the ways or reasons why university recognition is beneficial to our clubs and organizations, and there's a variety of other ones, right? You get an SB Engage page where you can advertise your events and you can recruit people and all these different things, but these are some of the top ones. So let's get into the process and what that looks like. So our new club and organization process takes place every semester, and that's a change that happened last year. Previous to that, it used to happen once a year, but we definitely saw that our students, there was a need for the process to happen more often, so that we currently do it every semester. The process allows for you all to apply to have a new club or organization recognized by the university through our department. And really that allows the group to function on campus, enroll members, and identify with the university, right? Like I said, you cannot call yourself Stony Brook University X Club until you are actually recognized. Something really important to note, and it's the unfortunate fact, but just because you apply or go through the new club and organization process does not guarantee that you will get recognition for your proposed organization, right? So some of you may be denied in the initial proposal stage for a variety of reasons. Others may be able to go on to step 2, but not be able to finish the process for whatever reason. So I just want you all to know, and I just want to be very transparent that just because you go through the process doesn't mean you will, at the end of it, have a recognized club or organization. So just keep that in mind. All of the submissions that we receive are reviewed by a committee that's comprised of students and staff. And all decisions are made after really a holistic review of the application. So we read through every single one of them and all of the questions that are in each of them. As we're reading them, we're also comparing with other already existing organizations and other resources and departments and initiatives that we already have on campus. And we're making sure that whatever you're proposing is adhering to different state, department, and university policies. So timeline, right? what does this all look like? If you have questions during this, which you might, definitely put them in the chat and I'm happy to answer them, because it can get a little confusing at first, but I'll try to do my best to really tweeze it out for you. So initial proposal, right? For your initial proposal, that is gonna open on Friday. So this Friday, September 17th, and you're gonna have up until October 1st to submit your initial proposal. During this time period, right, from September 17th to October 1st, once you submit your proposal, that's it, right? We are not reviewing anything until after that October 1st deadline. So during this time period, you want to make sure that you're putting your best materials forward, because there will be no sort of resubmission or feedback type of process formally. So once you submit it, you just want to make sure that that is right, your final draft or your final copy of whatever it is that you're choosing to put forth. If you have any questions about what you're looking to submit before then, shoot us an email at Student Engagement Activities and we'd be happy to review something for you before you actually submit. Then during the initial proposal period, right after October 1st, the committee meets and we review all of the proposals that we have received. As a committee, we make committee decisions on whether your proposal will move on to step 2, right? Which means that, yep, your organization looks good to go. It's not too similar to anything else that we have on campus. It currently meets all of our guidelines and policies, right? All of that stuff that I just went through before. So you are able to move on to step 2 and provide some additional information and requirements. So that's one of the outcomes, right? Another outcome could be you are currently denied and we will provide you with the reason why. And if you are denied with your initial proposal, you will have the ability to resubmit, right? And this resubmission period is from October 8th to the 15th. So you have about a week to go back and tweak your materials based on the feedback from the committee, right? So the committee will say, you know what, we really couldn't understand the mission, therefore we weren't able to judge what the organization was really trying to do, or, you know, you really didn't provide a lot of details for this one question, like please go back and work that one out. Or sometimes you might say, you know, we actually have something that's really similar already. So how about you connect with them and see where that goes. So during the resubmission period, again, you are going to take the feedback from the committee, make tweaks to your application and resubmit if you want to. So again, we will not look at any resubmissions until after they're all in, after that October 15th deadline. Then the committee will reconvene and review all of the resubmissions that we have received. And at that point, we will provide decisions, which are final decisions for the semester at that time, in which we will say, you know what, yes, the tweaks really helped. The committee was able to review, and we think that you're able to move on to step 2, in which case you would do so. Or it would be, you know what, at this time, the committee does not believe that we are able to grant you access to step 2. This is why, and please in the future, if you'd like, resubmit, and we can always work with you throughout the semester to sort of work on materials or whatever that looks like. So those are sort of the 2 things that happen during resubmission. So again, not everyone goes through the resubmission process. Some people go straight from initial proposal and jump to step 2. But once you get to step 2, right, that spans from October 8th, right? So that's because some people go straight from initial proposal to step 2, but it spans all the way to November 11th. And during that time, what you're doing is really continuing to gather and fine tune your materials and provide executive board information. You're providing your advisor forms, you're providing your constitution, which is the biggest part of this whole process. So you're really working on amplifying the materials for this proposed organization and getting them to a place where they look really good and look like the materials of our organizations that have been here forever. And we can talk a little bit more about that in a second, but that is the timeline. Any questions on the timeline as a whole? All righty. So again, I sort of talked through the steps, but I will do it again because it definitely can get a little confusing. So again, step 1, which everyone is going to go through, is going to be the initial proposal, right? You don't have to go through it this semester, by the way. Again, like I said, this process is open every semester. So if you feel like you rather take a semester to really just get everything in place before you apply, please do so. But step 1 is when you're submitting an initial proposal. From step 1, You're either going to go to step 2 directly, which means, yes, your initial proposal was approved and you're going into step 2, where you're really doing what we call the new club process form. Or you're going to go to step 1A, which says that you're denied during the initial proposals. We're going to provide you feedback and then you're able to resubmit. So in step 1A, which is the resubmission, right? If you choose to resubmit, then we will be able to review it again, right, with fresh eyes, see if there's been improvements. And from there, from step 1A, you can either go to step 2, right? Everything looks good. You definitely took into consideration the notes from the committee and you're able to move on to step 2. Or unfortunately, at that point, you could be denied during that resubmission, in which case the process would end for you there, right? And you would be provided feedback as to why you were denied for the second time, so that if you wanted to prepare for next semester's process, you could do that as well. So what are the requirements of each of the steps? They're on our website, but let me explain them a little further. So for step 1, which is your initial proposal, really what the committee is looking for is that you have a well thought out idea of what you want this new club or organization to be. And what I mean by that is that the committee doesn't want to see you say, yeah, I just want a plant club, but not actually give any thought to what that club would do, who would be in it, right? How you would run it, all of those things. We want you to actually think about this before jumping in, because the process can be long. And there are a lot of resources that get put into not just creating and recognizing our new clubs, but really keeping them alive and keeping them running afterwards. So we want to make sure that you're committed so that we can be committed to you as well. So what we need is a proposed organization name, right? Probably the easiest part. A statement of purpose. So your statement of purpose, you want that to be unique to your organization, and it can't duplicate or closely resemble that of an already existing organization, right? Which also includes organizations that have similar goals, but maybe different national or international affiliations, or organizations that may closely resemble or duplicate services offered by Stony Brook University offices or department. So basically, what you want to do is you want to do your research about what we already have on campus, right? Because we don't want to take away from what is already here. We want to add to it. So we can add your ideas of how to grow something that we already have and have them think about it in a different way. Let's do that instead of taking resources away from what we already have. So the statement of purpose is probably the most important part of this initial proposal. Okay, so I want you to really give time and thought about what that is. You want something that is not too super specific, right? So I'm not starting a club about the pink pens, but I'm also not starting a club about, all writing materials. Maybe my club is in the middle. It's about pens in general. That was a really silly example, but you don't want it to be too specific. You don't want it to be too broad. And you want to make sure that your statement of purpose is really the guiding light to anything that your club will do in the future. So I don't necessarily in your statement of purpose want to know all of the events that you might have, right? Because that might change from year to year, but I want to know, what is your guiding mission? What is the one thing that you're going to continue to look back at year after year and say, you know what, yes, this still makes sense for a group. This is why we're going to base all of these events off of that. This is why it's important to us. That is your statement of purpose. I'll get to the question in the chat in 2 seconds. You're also going to need to provide what we call a growth and sustainability plan. So that is really our way to really understand where you see this group fitting into Stony Brook and how you see it growing and really benefiting the community. Right, so we want to know how the proposed organization plans to contribute to the Stony Brook community, and if applicable, the local or national community. And Stony Brook community is bolded because having a recognized club on campus, right, you want to be giving back to our student community and the Stony Brook community. So what happens is sometimes we have, let's say, groups who are affiliated with national organizations, and sometimes their mission is just about this external organization, which is fine, but what are you providing to the Stony Brook community in return, right? If the Stony Brook community is providing you resources, what are you providing us in return before you're focusing your efforts on any outside entity, right? Is it education to our students? Is it advocacy? Like, what is it that you are giving back to our community? We want to know how the organization will encourage new and continued membership. So start thinking about, right? How am I going to get members for my organization? How am I going to grow this club? What are my plans for that? And how do you plan to transition your EBoard members each year? And we say that because even many of our clubs that are currently active don't do the best job at transitioning their EBoards. And because you're a new club, it is more likely that if you don't transition your EBoard well, the club may sort of fizzle out. And if you fizzle out for too long, you become defunct, and then you sort of have to start this whole process again. So because you're newer, right, less people might know about you. So we want to make sure that the foundation for your organization is very strong so that we can continue to have your group around, because you work really hard to get it to this place. And then the third sort of question that we ask is a program proposal, right? So we want to know that you have thought about this organization and what you want to do with this organization. So it's thinking about if you could have one event, right? And not necessarily like the GBM, but like an actual event of some sort. What would it be and what's the purpose of that event, right? How would that event support the mission of the organization? So again, that statement of purpose and that mission is going to be the most important part that I really want you to focus on, and everything should be leading back to that. So how does your proposed event support that mission that you've written out? How does the event, again, contribute to the Stony Brook community? So what are we giving back to our people? And how would you foresee this event growing and expanding in the future, right? So I want you to think strategically and think about, you know, a 2-year plan, a 4-year plan. Where do you want to see this organization go? Even if you're no longer at Stony Brook, you can sort of leave that vision behind with your group. So there's a question in the chat that says, if we don't have any members interested, are we allowed to post ads about new club forming? Yes, absolutely. And the way you do it is really, you want to say, hey, however you choose to market this, hey, I'm looking to go through the new club process and start XYZ club. It is currently not recognized, but I'm looking for new members who are interested in the purpose. This is the purpose, right? So really just making sure that people know that you're not currently recognized, you're working on it, and really find people who want to go on that journey with you and who want to help you sort of rise this group and really build this group from the ground up. Is that helpful? I'm just gonna pretend to do. All right, so before I get there, step 1, like I said, that's the initial proposal. We will review this and then you'll get a decision, right? Either great, you've been recommended to move on to step 2, or your initial proposal has been denied. Here's why. This is what the committee thinks. Here's the feedback. Please resubmit if you so choose, right? During the resubmission process, all you're going to do, right, is go back in and tweak these same questions. There is really no separate form for it. It's all these questions, but there is one extra question that some of you may need to complete, and that is, if the committee has told you that you are too similar to X, Y, or Z already at Stony Brook, please explain to us why, in your eyes, or like what differentiates you, right? What is the committee not seeing that makes you different from X, Y, or Z? So that is the only sort of extra question that might be on that form. And it's only required for any group that has received feedback regarding being duplicative of or similar to any other organization or service here at Stony Brook. So once you're on to step 2, right? Woohoo, you've been recommended to move on to step 2. This is sort of where the nitty gritty, really logistics, getting your group up and running comes in. So you will need all of the information you submitted in the initial proposal, which is already done. It's been approved, so you don't even have to worry about it anymore. You just copy and paste it over. On top of that, you will need an executive board, right? So your executive board, you will need a president at bare minimum, a president, a vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So we call that the core 4 executive board. And these people need to meet certain requirements, right? So they have to have a cumulative GPA of 2.25 for an undergraduate student and club, or a 3.0 for a graduate student and club. And I say student and club because we have two types of organizations, right? Two organization buckets. One's undergraduate clubs, one's graduate clubs. If you are creating an undergraduate clubs, that means that it will sort of be made up of a majority of undergraduate students, right? So our clubs are open to anyone. But if you're creating an undergraduate club, it means that the whole core executive board will be undergraduate students, and the majority of its members will also be undergraduate students. Same thing for grad. If you are creating a graduate clubs, that means the core executive board will be made up of graduate students, and the majority of the members will be graduate students as well. And part of that comes from different funding source bylaws that say that if undergraduate student activity fee money is being used, right, a majority of the people benefiting should be undergraduate students and vice versa. So that's sort of where it comes in. So that's for you to know. These people on the executive board have to be matriculated, currently enrolled in classes, and working toward a degree. So you can be a part-time, full-time student, that's fine, as long as you're matriculated, enrolled in classes for the semester, and working toward your degree. You must be in appropriate conduct standing with the university, right? So if you have, if you've ever received any sanctions of university probation or higher, or really a sanction that says specifically you may not hold a leadership position within a club or organization, then unfortunately you wouldn't be able to be on the executive board. You could take part in a club or organization, but you wouldn't be able to take part in the executive board. For our new clubs, specifically, no more than 2 students who are graduating during the academic year of recognition will be allowed to hold EBoard positions, right? So if you're, for undergrad students, right, if you're in U4 standing and you are graduating within this academic year, only 2 of you who are U4 standing and graduating may hold an executive board position. And that's really just to make sure that we're keeping the longevity of the organization. Because if you have 4 U4 students who are all graduating in the spring, chances are that the transition to the new executive board might be rocky, right? And all of the work that you just put in throughout the last year might fizzle out. Again, we want to make sure that because we're putting in so much work and you're putting in so much work to start this organization continues well beyond you. So that is through the new club process. If someone is, let's say you have 2 people who are U4 and graduating, but there's another one who is U4, but they're not graduating yet, right? Maybe they just brought in extra credits, whatever that looks like, that's fine. They would just have to sort of shoot me an email with some sort of proof letting me know that they're not yet graduating until, let's say, next year or whatever, and then that's no longer an issue. And then all executive board members will be asked to individually complete their own EBoard information form, which is going to be embedded into the step 2 requirements, and consent to the terms and conditions of their position, which is really just a Google form where it's your name, right, your information, and then it says, I have read X, Y, and Z, and I agree to abide by X, Y, and Z as part of my leadership role in the executive board. So every person on the executive board will need to do that individually by themselves before you can move forward in the process. There is a question in the chat that says, what if you don't have enough people for the EBoard and need recognition first? So I guess I don't know how to answer that, because you can't get recognition without having enough people on the EBoard, right? So again, there's nothing stopping you from representing yourself as an organization seeking recognition in order to gain members and gain people who would like to be on the executive board. So you can do that. You can tell friends, you can tell your classmates, whatever that looks like, saying, hey, I'm looking to start this club. This is the purpose of it. I'm working through the new club process. Would you be interested in joining me in this sort of journey? Do you want to be part of the executive board? All of that good stuff. So you cannot get recognition without having the full executive board. Additionally, some other requirements from step 2 are going to be a faculty or staff member who's willing to serve as an advisor. So that is going to be on you to find a faculty or staff member from Stony Brook University, who they can be part-time or full-time, whatever that looks like for them, who's willing to serve as the advisor. There are no sort of requirements of what the role of the advisor is as far as we go, right? We have an advisor manual that says this is what the advisor should do. But at the end of the day, you should find an advisor who's really committed to the purpose of your organization and is willing to really help your organization grow and expand. Because as I mentioned, being a new organization can be a little difficult as you're learning how everything works and really getting used to what it means to be a group and all of that. So you might want to sort of discuss expectations with whoever your proposed advisor is first to make sure they're going to be the right fit. This person, for as far as step 2 requirements, will be asked to confirm their role as the advisor, and they'll fill out a similar Google form as the EBoard saying, this is my name, this is the organization that I will be advising, and I agree to abide by X, Y, and Z. You also need a constitution that follows our model constitution and is in line with state regulations and university policy. So if you were to go on SB Engage, which you all have access to with your NetID and password, and you type in student engagement and activities, which is our organization page, you scroll to the bottom for documents, you will see the model constitution. You can download that and you can basically use that as a template and input the information that makes the most sense for your organization based off of that. In that template, it's very explicit as to this absolutely needs to be in the Constitution, and this you can change to fit whatever your organization's needs are. So the Constitution is typically what takes the most time, right? It's the most time-consuming portion of the process because we go back and forth, making sure that you have a Constitution that really sets up your organization for success and covers really important aspects of what it means to be a group. So yes, you also need a general club email address. So you can create that now. It can be, penclub@gmail.com. As long as you have access to it and your executive board has access to it. That's all that we really worry about. We personally as a department do not provide any like @stonybrook.edu email addresses. Some of our clubs have it, not really sure how they got it. But I know I always get that question a lot and I'm not much help, unfortunately. You will also need at least 10 general body members, right? So outside of your 4 executive board, you also need 10 general body members plus your advisor. So in total, at minimum, you should have about 15 people committed to this organization. And at the end of it, once you're approved through step 2, we just ask that 2 EBoard members attend the new club workshop, which is really where I will be there or one of my staff or committee members will be there discussing, how to use some of the things that are most essential to our clubs and organizations like SB Engaged to manage your club or organization, 25 Live, discussing what a program advisor is, right? We go through a lot of these sort of information and how-tos to be an organization to set the foundation so that you can really succeed. And our department is always here to help, but we find that that is a really great way to sort of get a whole lot of information all at once. Before I go to the questions in the chat, I just want to say that step 2, some people get really freaked out because in step 2, it's through SB Engage and we do a lot of what is denying, right? But when we deny your group in step 2, it's usually not a flat out denial. It's the way the system works, right? So we need to deny your form in order for you to be able to go in and make any changes. So we typically deny and we'll write comments like, hey, please change X, Y, and Z, or I noticed that you were missing this information, like please add it in. You have to be denied in order for you to be able to go back in and edit it. So don't stress out if that happens. You just edit it and resubmit it. And that might happen a couple of times if there's a lot of issues, or it might happen no times. I don't think I've ever had a perfect step 2 form submission in the few years that I've been doing this. So I just want to let you all know not to be freaked out. So let me see the chat because I know there's some things that popped up. This will be recorded. I can send it out after. can we do anything in step 2 prior to being approved in step 1? For example, gathering EBoard members or asking people if they would be interested in the club proposed. You absolutely can begin recruiting people. I would just let them know that you are currently in step 1 and just being very transparent at what the process looks like, right? And saying we might make it to step 2 in recognition, but we might not, but I would really love your help to make sure that we are submitting our best materials as possible so that we can get all the way to that recognition step. But yes, absolutely, you can start recruiting people, you can start working on constitution, you can start doing anything for step 2. Just make sure that you're setting realistic expectations at the end of the day. William, I see it says you're raising your hand. I can't see it, but it gave me a note.
Yes. Yes. So if the club that you're interested in starting requires use of like, let's say, heavy machinery, for example, what would the safety clauses that are required in the Constitution look like exactly?
That's a great question. That would really be a conversation that we would need to have sort of on a one-on-one basis to really understand what the group needs, and really, does it make sense to maybe have partnerships with other areas on campus that can provide heavy machinery, right? That is not something that we provide, but maybe we can create connections somewhere else. So if you would like to shoot me an email after this, sort of explaining a little bit of this, I can either give you an answer or we can set up a meeting to really discuss it further.
Got you. Thank you very much.
Of course. Let's see. There will be, so the application, so the initial proposal form will be live on September 17th. There will be a link on the main page of SB Engage, and that's where you can get it. What is the best way to find a faculty staff to serve an advisor? As an advisor, really most of our students will reach out to professors or staff members that they know at the university, and really start with a conversation about their goals and their plan and see if they are interested. Depending on the mission and purpose of your organization, right, you can pinpoint certain faculty or staff at the university that you think might be, right, the best at that, right? So if I am starting a physics club, I would probably want an advisor who is either interested in physics, teaches physics, right, something along those lines. We in the Department of Student Engagement Activities have a list of different faculty or staff members throughout the year who have told us they might be interested in advising a club or organization. So if you shoot us an email at studentengagement@stonybrook.edu, we can send you a couple of names that you can reach out to. But I would say if you have a relationship with someone already, that might be the best way to go, only because, again, starting a new club or organization takes a lot of effort from you, and also you want someone else to be able to bounce ideas off of and really help you maybe get an outsider's perspective on things. So either option is viable. Shoot us an email if you want some assistance. All right. So that's the 2 steps, right? We sort of went through the requirements, and I went through some of the best practices, but let's delve a little deeper. So, like I mentioned earlier today, do your research. And I think this is really important in saving you some time possibly, or saving you or helping you sort of focus your mindset, right? Because you want to see what other organizations are that are already recognized or that are similar to you are already doing. You also want to familiarize yourself with our community guidelines. We'll go through that in a little bit, but many times some of our organizations unfortunately are denied because they are similar or have similar goals to organizations or departments or services that we already offer. And I think it's hard because sometimes, right, there could be this one thing that makes you different. But for the committee, right, depending on who it is, and it changes all the time, they might not see that one thing as different enough to be able to grant you recognition as a whole different organization. So sometimes what we also offer for organizations who are proposed, who are similar to things we already have, is becoming a subcommittee. And there's information on that on our website. So a subcommittee is really working together, but sort of in a different way, right? We call it an umbrella organization and a subcommittee, and having some benefits through that process. Familiarizing yourself with the community guidelines. So those are also linked on our website in our new club page. I'm gonna give you that link now in case you don't already have it. I'm gonna put it in the chat so that you have all these things that I'm talking about. Our community guidelines are really the guiding light for all of our clubs and organizations. It's a long document, so don't be scared, but really just give it a sort of brief overview so you know what it means to become a student organization and what guidelines and what requirements need to be met before you sort of embark on this journey, and just make sure that you're prepared for that, what that looks like, because sometimes, right, you might just have a really busy semester, and this might not be the semester for you where you want to be doing all these things, doing additional trainings that are required of our executive board, right? All of that. So just think to yourself what makes the most sense for you, and at what timeline would you like to sort of start this process, and just know what that process entails and what it means to actually become a student organization. In your application materials, please be clear and concise, right? Make sure, especially in your statement of purpose, that the committee understands the root of what you are trying to do. Sometimes people will sort of write 40 paragraphs about what they're trying to do, but then their core mission gets lost in that. So have a really strong sense of what that statement of purpose and your mission is, and be able to really provide that in a clear and concise way so that the people sitting around the table in the committee are able to make the most informed decision about your proposed organization as they can. You don't want them to say, well, I don't really understand what they're saying, so I can't base my decision off of that, right? You want to be able to, if let's say you're proposing something really niche that most people might not have an idea about, explain it a little bit and really drive that core mission and purpose. Stay on top of it. So we will communicate with you primarily via email or emails from the SB Engage system when we are commenting or denying or approving your forms that you are submitting. Sometimes SB Engage emails go into your spam folder, so check that out. Check it now if you happen to have any SB Engage emails lying around in your spam folder. But if sort of you're seeing that it's past the deadlines or whatever, and you haven't heard back from us, check your spam, first of all, or reach out to us. Additionally, please know that only the person who is submitting information is going to get that email, right? So if you're working in partnership with someone else, if let's say myself and William are working together, but William is the one who submits the form, William is the one who's going to get the emails, not me. So just make sure that the communication stays strong between people in your organization if sort of you're splitting up tasks. But also just make sure that you're adhering to provided timelines for resubmission or initial submissions, right? They are strict timelines. So if it closes Friday at 8 a.m., it's Friday at 8 a.m., right? It's not Friday at 10 a.m. So just make sure you're keeping on top of it and you know the timelines. They're on the website with the time and everything. So please keep that in mind. And lastly, utilize your resources. So attend different workshops that are going to be offered throughout the next few weeks. Utilize our model constitution. It's really, I think, the most helpful piece of document for our clubs, and then just tweak to make sense for your proposed organization. And reach out to us if you need any assistance, right? You can reach out to us at studentengagement@stonybrook.edu if you have questions about the process, if you really want to talk through something with someone, anything like that. We're here to help you and provide assistance whenever needed. Our next workshop so if you go through the initial proposal stage into step 2, I definitely recommend coming to our new club organization process constitution workshop, where we literally go through all of the different articles of a constitution, and we talk about what language is required, what you can change, and what makes sense for you to change, right? What is going to make the most sense for your organization. We'll talk about organizations are built the same, right? Some require different things. So we can talk about, okay, I know this is what it's like in the model constitution, but this is also sort of a model that you can follow that makes sense. Or really, you can also be like, hey, I have this great idea. And we might be like, well, I don't think that's going to work because of X, Y, and Z, but how about this? So I definitely recommend attending those if you make it through the initial proposal period. And again, if you can't make it to any of these dates, let us know and we can always set up a Zoom meeting or something like that separately with one of our staff or committee members from the new club org process. So I'm going to open it up to questions that haven't already been asked. But again, if you don't have questions now, maybe we'll have questions later. Shoot us an email. Happy to answer it. We're here Mondays through Fridays, 9 to 5, barring any sort of large scale events that might throw our schedules off. But yeah, so any questions you all may have? I'm going to stop recording now also.